Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and yes, that's right, you read the title, and you know exactly what it is that I'm reviewing, and as was teased in the last review video, yes, finally, I am reviewing, definitely, I mean, am I not wrong when I say that this is definitely, and would be considered, I guess, you know, a top animated gem from DreamWorks Animation? Seriously, because with what Chris Sanders brought to this animated film, this beautiful, wholesome animated film about a robot who finds herself, yeah, because the robot is technically a she, in an island that's, you know, bewildered with, you know, forest, woodland creatures, animals, and such. Yeah, it's amazing. And this being based off of a novel by the same name, which, I gotta be honest, I didn't really know anything about the novel until, you know, when I heard the announcement of this DreamWorks animated film being directed by the one and only Chris Sanders, and yeah, and, you know, when the trailers came out and, you know, when reacting to them, and when the movie finally came out, and when I finally got a chance to watch this, and as you saw in the thumbnail, yes, oh, just fantastic. So yes, that's right. Again, I am finally reviewing from 2024 DreamWorks Animation's The Wild Robot. Yes, The Wild Robot. Man, again, I really enjoyed this. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see this in theaters. I mean, I guess that would be a crime and shame not seeing this kind of movie on the big screen with beautiful animation, just like how it turned out in, you know, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. But thankfully, I did see that in theaters, if I didn't establish that before, but yeah. So I had seen Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and what that DreamWorks animated film brought to the big screen with that beautiful animation, and how, yeah, we would see that kind of animation again in The Wild Robot, and how beautiful it would look, yeah. And it's nice to see good old Chris Sanders back in the director's chair, directing a animated feature film, and yeah, because, you know, again, what he brought to this animated film from DreamWorks, no disappointment. And one thing that Chris Sanders has been good at, especially in the previous animated films that he's done, most notably, you know, Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon, and for this, heart, emotion, just, yeah. Also, having two characters, you know, have a very close relationship and bond, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, Lilo and Stitch, Hiccup, Burke, I'm sorry, but Toothless and Hiccup, yeah. And in The Wild Robot, a Gosling and a robot, just, yeah, you get my point, yeah, that's great to see. And you know, because it's great that that also, you know, Chris, you know, he, before doing this, had previously made his way into, you know, the realm of live-action films, if you know what live-action film he directed, and after that, well, he would find himself back in the realm of animation doing this, and Chris now becoming one of those directors who first started off directing animated feature films and would make their way doing live-action films, right next to, say, Brad Bird, Rob Minkoff, Chris Wedge, and a bunch of other great directors, you know, just, yeah, it's nice to see. And good for Chris Sanders. And also, not to mention, his animation directing, you know, co-directing buddy, you know, Dean Diopoulos, because he too making his way into directing live-action films with, you know, most notably the live-action remake of How to Train Your Dragon. But yeah, you get my point, but yeah. So, yeah, of course, again, when I first heard about this, and that, you know, this being based off of a novel, which again, I was not aware of at all, and knowing that Chris was directing this, well, of course, It was exciting to hear that Chris was going to direct this, and hopefully, yeah, this would have turned out really good. And boy, did it for sure did, you know? And thankfully, because, yeah, this being a good success after, you know, DreamWorks Animation's previous animated film before this, which was kind of but, you know, not god-awful or anything, but still. And that, of course, being Kung Fu Panda 4. But, yeah, thankfully, the second animated feature for DreamWorks coming out that same year, yeah, it turned out really good. So, yeah. And, yeah, when I watched it the first time, again, I didn't see this in theaters. I did watch it finally on digital/Blu-ray. I really enjoyed it from beginning to end. This movie did not disappoint for me. How can it not? Yeah, especially, you know, make a lot of people tear-jerky. You know what I'm saying? Just, yeah, obviously. But yeah, from the characters, the story, the beautiful animation, the heart and soul in this movie, it was just amazing. Really, it was. And it's a shame that it didn't get a single win at the Oscars. It got 3 nominations, but didn't win. But hey, at least, you know, it did win other awards, rightfully so, you know. But yeah, still, it's obvious that we would have expected seeing The Wild Robot get nominated for the Oscars, but not a single win. But that's okay. You know, hey, at least it made it there. Anyways, but yeah, and also the voice cast. Boy, were they fantastic. And when I mentioned them, of course they did not disappoint. And knowing who was going to be in this, and when hearing their voice performances, what they brought to each of these characters, rather, you know, them being, you know, wilderness animals or robots, just, yeah, they're really good too. And some of the songs that were in The Wild Robot, and the music and score, everything about The Wild Robot was fantastic. Overall, The Wild Robot, not a disappointment, definitely a top animated gem from DreamWorks Animation, right? Just, yeah. Okay, so, as always, for me, read the description / the story. After a shipwreck, an intelligent robot is stranded on an uninhabited island. To survive the harsh surroundings, she bonds with the native animals and cares for an orphaned baby goose. Yeah, and the goose also being called Gosselin, but, you know, we'll stick with Goose. But yeah, that's the description / the story, so we're done with that. Okay, so, getting into the film itself, well, and as I read in the description / the story, the way the movie opens, well, there's this hurricane, the storm, and we see something wrecked on these rocks, and yeah, because there was a typhoon and so on, and these otters, they stumble upon and investigating what was, you know, brought up to shore. Well, this robot who awakes, and the robot being named Rosm 7134, but Roz for short. And Roz being voiced by the one and only Lupita Nyong'o, if I'm saying her last name right. I think I might be getting her first name right, but you know who it is, of course, and I, of course, remember her best as, you know, Maz from the Star Wars sequel trilogy, but more than that, of course, because obviously, can't forget to mention her being in the Black Panther films. She was in 12 Years a Slave, and a bunch of other films that she was in. Great and talented, sweet person, actress, you know, and yeah, her voice performance for the robot character Roz. Oh, just fantastic, of course, without a doubt. Her awakening, and yeah, in need of any of services, you know, assistance, asking the animals, like, yeah, the otters, and when they scatter, and when Roz notices these, like, hermit crabs, well, they're just crabs, they're not hermit crabs, and even mimicking how they each walk, like from the crabs or a deer, and still, like, when we see Roz, like, at one point climbing a cliff, and just like a crab, and asking the crab if the crab is in any need of assistance and so on, services. because that's what Roz, the robot, is designed and programmed for, assisting those and, yeah, any services. And, you know, Roz acquired to have a task, as it's mentioned a lot of times in the film. And again, when mimicking certain animals and how they walk and run, yeah. And when approaching any animal that she sees, when she makes her way further into the woods, just asking these animals, and all of them just scattering, running away, and treating her like trash and such. And even when, say, at one point she takes pictures of them and gives them stickers that have their face on it, but most of them shredding them. And eventually she begins to develop transmissions and learning their language, remaining there for quite a while. There's a bit of time lapse where she sits down behind this log and, spending that time transmitting the languages of each of the woodland creatures, from the raccoons, the otters, bears, deer, and so on. Just, yeah. And finally, when, yeah, she can understand and speak their languages. And even when, yeah, because one of them, because they even call her Monster a couple of times in this movie. And even one rabbit asks Roz if it's come to kill them, and she says negative and so on. And then they start to, beat her up and just, yeah, they just don't like her presence in the woods. Yeah. And unfortunately, and to speed things up, Roz isn't getting anything from the woodland creatures now that she can speak their languages and understand them. And, well, if nobody is requiring assistance in the woods, then she then begins to send a transmission, transmitter, because she deploys a rescue transmitter. And, at one point, and because it's this thing that sticks out on top of her head, when she's trying to begin the transmission, raccoons start to steal it, and some of her robotic parts as well, and her getting them back, and not to mention that her robotic parts do come to life, and, they can be summoned back to be attached to her. But that is except for the transmitter device, and her trying to get it back, and even when the raccoons, they're mesmerized by the glowing of the transmitter, and yeah. Ultimately, she did finally get the transmitter back and unexpectedly, unintentionally disposed the raccoons. They were all piled up on a tree, and her robotic foot was on top of the very tip of the tree, and when, they begged the robot to, no, don't, and then just like, bing, they went flying. Well, technically, it served them right, but thankfully they didn't die. They landed in the ocean, so yeah. But then at one point, and when Roz, she gets the transmitter back, she does at one point stumble upon / coming face to face with a bear, and the bear chases after Roz running away, and of course, her knowing that, being up close and face to face with a bear is dangerous. And this causes Roz to fall off the edge of a cliff and, hitting a tree, and the tree crashes and such. And Roz discovers something, even after she checks the inside of her robotic body, the main part of her body, and what she discovers from the wreckage of the tree is a dead bird. And not to mention that the dead bird had eggs, and only one survived. And Roz, discovering that there's something still alive and well in this one egg, starts to, hold on to the egg and look after it for now. But that is until a little later, and while she's looking after the egg, a fox out of nowhere pops in and tries to take the egg. And a little sequence where, Roz, getting the egg back from this fox, and it's pretty funny. And even when the fox tricks Roz, here, you can have it, and just, But ultimately, the fox gets defeated especially after, landing on a porcupine. And at least Roz was kind enough, after retrieving the egg, helping out the fox by taking out, the prickly, thorns and such, from the porcupine, of course, yeah. Well, yeah, because in having the fox, go away and such, shoo off, well, the egg, it starts to crack, and Roz is trying to keep it from breaking, but no, it's supposed to do that. The bird has now finally hatched, and yeah, again, being a goose. And, well, the goose, thinking that the robot is his mama, and the goose is a boy, and a sweet moment where Roz starts to light up, and the baby goose, rubbing on, Roz's head, but Roz, putting it down, and, the task is complete, and so on. But the baby goose starting to follow Roz, even when, Roz scared it a little, but yeah. And at one point, both the baby goose and Roz coming near and stumbling upon this family of possums, and the mother possum being voiced by good old Catherine O'Hara. She voices Pinktail, and her children, yeah, because the children, the possum children, well, nice to see, they're credited just as baby possums. Baby possum number 1 being voiced by Alessandro Biogi, if I'm even saying that right. I might butcher some of their names, and again, you know me sometimes. Baby possum number 2 being voiced by Tiago Martinez. Baby possum number 3, Becca Last. And number 3, 4, 5, and 6 were voiced by Madeline Turpin. Baby possum number 4 and 7 being voiced by Kaylee Rain, and baby possum numbers 8 and 9 being voiced by Isabella Tupin. Okay, so sisters voiced some of the possums, and baby possum number 11, Damon Fung, and baby possum 12, Kane Moore. Okay, so that's our cast of baby possums. So now that that's out of the way, because yeah, the first encounters with, the possum family and Roz is pretty funny. They play dead, but nothing's happening, and one of the possums messed up the whole concept of, playing dead, and, well, they're not dead yet, but yeah. And Pinktail taking it upon herself to interact with this robot, and when realizing that, well, the baby goose being attached to the robot, and Pinktail, being a mother, giving Roz some tips on, raising a baby goose, even though it's not a possum, still, it's a baby, it's a child. And most notably, Pinktail giving 3 specific instructions to Roz. Feed, swim, and fly. Yeah. And even after the possum family disembark, they say goodbye. At least, they were the first woodland creatures to be kind in how, they interacted with Roz. After they leave, yeah, Roz does all those 3 things. Feed, swim, and fly. But yeah, she's not doing good at first. But then, someone else steps in to help out Roz some, and that being the fox, whom we saw earlier, who tried to eat the little baby goose, but not this time. But there were a few times at first that, he might have eaten the baby goose. And that being Fink the fox, and being voiced by good old Pedro Pascal, aka the Mandalorian. And by the way, The Wild Robot is Pedro Pascal's animated film debut. Yeah, where he does a voice in an animated feature film. Good for him. It kind of feels like he might have done voice work, but but not in an animated feature film. Just, yeah. But it's great to see, yeah. And Pedro Pascal voicing the fox, no disappointment either. And by the way, the baby goose would get a name of its own. Brightbill. Yep, that's the name that the baby goose would get. Brightbill. And young Brightbill, when Brightbill finally speaks at one point, and being credited as Baby Brightbill being voiced by Boone Storm. Yeah, I think I got the first name right. Boone. Store, yeah. So yeah, Fink helping out Roz some, and even, well, he knows this because when he was raised by his mother, on how to, eat and to swim. And how to swim, like, kicking the baby goose, but just, it's pretty funny. But eventually, yeah, Fink starts to hang out with Roz and Bright Bill some more, even when Roz did mention to Fink that, unintentionally, and it was an accident, that Roz killed Bright Bill's actual family, and a couple of times where Fink covering baby Bright Bill's, ears, don't give him the early heads up, or however he said it, just is pretty funny. Which, he's not wrong, so eventually he'll know, which, yeah, how he knows, not very good, but until we get there. But to speed things up, because, as the film proceeds, Roz, and along with Fink, helping out Bright Bill some, and, again, when giving the baby goose's name, and when they build shelter, they build a home, and taking it after a beaver named Paddler. And according to Fink, Paddler has for a while been trying to munch off a gigantic tree. It's taken him a while, but all the other woodland creatures, according to Fink, think that he's crazy. He's not going to achieve this, but yeah. And Paddler being voiced by Matt Berry, yeah. And Paddler's British. So yeah, again, they take after Paddler, like, the designs, from beavers, how they build homes, with twigs and such, they do that. And even baby Bright Bill helping out some, placing the twigs. And Paddler, at first, being jealous. Well, I wouldn't say jealous, but, offended and just, taking his idea. Also, when it's finally built, and even a fireplace is put there, also Roz making drawings, like pictures on stone, and pictures of Bright Bill, Fink, and Roz. Yeah, family pictures, I guess you could say, which pretty much that's what they are, but yeah. And, well, then at one point, how to, calm Bright Bill at one point, and so on, to, well, the whole thing of telling a story to Bright Bill. And, well, Roz comes up with one, and so does Fink. Yeah, the story that each of them tell when, a mother approached and looking after, a baby goose and such. It's pretty funny, and a couple of times how Fink explains it. But yeah, overall, not bad for the first time for Roz telling a nice, decent story to Bright Bill. And after that, well, right there, and when, they both go to sleep for the night, yeah, Fink starts to, connect very well with both Roz and Bright Bill, even cuddling next to Roz, and same for Bright Bill. Yeah, that's a sweet moment. And again, Fink touching up, to Roz and Bright Bill, most notably Roz. And time passes, and well, we see Bright Bill now older, and Bright Bill being voiced by Kit Connor. Yes, that's right, Kit Connor. And Bright Bill is acting a little bit like his adoptive mother, I guess you could say. Yeah, acting like a robot, and he even gave himself a number code. And him trying to interact and make a friend with other woodland creatures, not going so well. And still haven't been able to fly just yet. And well, because, yeah, even when at one point, and to speed things up still, because one moment where Bright Bill does discover his own kind, his fellow gooses, and even when he interacts with one of them, a female goose, and it's a bit, awkward, I guess you could say. An interesting start when, yeah, for the first time, I presume, Bright Bill interacts with his very own kind. But it doesn't go too well when a couple of other geese show up, and they recognize who Bright Bill is, being raised after the monster, and they pick on him and trying to get him to see if he can fly and kind of almost drowning him. And luckily for Roz, and by this point, man, Roz managed to develop a personality and really caring for Bright Bill. At one point, one of her hands disconnected, detached itself from her robotic body and to listen in on Bright Bill and such and the conversations he was having, and can hear, and when that happens, that, poor Bright Bill's getting picked on, and she goes to Bright Bill's aid, and all the other geese, they fly away, monster! And fortunately, it didn't go so well for Bright Bill interacting with his own kind, especially being called a runt. Yeah, him being a runt. And it was also mentioned from some of the characters that, if so, Bright Bill being the runt, then if he was still with his own family, he might have not survived, but thankfully he did through Roz. And there's then a moment where, after, the geese, they flew away, there's one moment where a scary fish emerges named Rockmouth. And Fink knows the fish and the name, Rockmouth. A scene where Rockmouth is trying to go after Bright Bill. And as for Roz, she at one point got stuck between these rocks, one of her robotic legs, and at one point it broke off, unfortunately, damaged, it's broken, and she even tried to throw rocks to scare away Rockmouth, but unfortunately no luck. But thankfully, Bright Bill is saved, and Rockmouth is stopped, so nice to see. And once again, those geese jerks show up again, and even Roz told them that, Bright Bill only wanted to connect with his own kind, but they're not having it, those geese bullies. And when one of them breaks the news to Bright Bill on, not knowing who the robot is and what the robot did, and, you think the monster's your mother? The monster killed your mother. That's when he finds out. Like I said, a bad way for him to find out. And Bright Bill being upset by this, and when he lashes out, kind of, on Roz, when were you going to tell me, and so on. And even when they get back to, the home that was built, just how upset Bright Bill is by this, from both Roz and Fink, because Fink knew too, and even when Bright Bill calling Roz, saying to her, "You're not my mother," that's a sad moment right there. But at the same time, he's just upset and confused and angry by all of this that came to him out of nowhere. It just happened so fast. It's understandable. It's one of those things. And later on, there's a moment for Roz where she actually is at the location site where, she first came to the island, and looking through the wreckage of, of what she was a part of, and, the name of the place that she comes from, Universal Dynamics, also known as a tech lab in the books. In the books of the same name. The Wild Robot. And a little description of it. It's a company in the Wild Robot. And they created robots like Roz and so on. So looking through the storage of Universal Dynamics, I'll slow down, and even, most of the other robots, they're broken and such, and plugging in one of them, and there's like a commercial that plays, via hologram, on a rock wall, projection, another way to put it, and it's, it's an advertisement / commercial for these robots from Universal Dynamics, Well, one of them does activate, thanks to Roz, and seeking some help, with a task that Roz is doing. And when mentioning to the fellow robot that Roz has a kid. And also the mentioning of Alpha 113. Do you get that reference / Easter egg? I bet you do, yeah. The first time I watched this, it didn't occur to me, but when I rewatched this, now I recognized it. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't recognize and paid attention to that, but yeah. And Alpha 113, it's the robot's processor. Yeah, that's the processor for the robots. And I'll go ahead and say it because, yeah, Alpha 113, that's a reference / nod to A113, most notably being in the Pixar films. And Chris Sanders actually was a part of that class, A113 at CalArts. That's nice to see because, well, hey, A113 was the famous classroom at CalArts where a lot of future famous animators from, say, those at Pixar, Tim Burton, Brad Bird, Ron Clements, John Musker, and Chris Sanders being one of them, that's where they went to, that classroom. So, and hey, that's nice to see that we get A113 in a DreamWorks animated film. Yeah, I mean, it's not like Pixar specifically owns the thing on, including A113, okay? Because I know I've seen this and say, it's been in The Iron Giant, it's been in The Simpsons, come on, anybody can use it, especially anybody who's been at that classroom. So, yeah, there you go. But yeah, that's nice to see, yeah, Alpha 113, so, and yeah. And also, yeah, the robot, when mentioning Alpha 113, realizes that Roz probably needs to be sent back to the Universal Dynamics. Yeah, but Roz, of course, doesn't comply, and so on, just, yeah. Well, actually, no, she does, because we then see her on top of a mountain, I guess you could say, yeah, way up top, and, well, she does... and she's about to send a transmission, actually taking one from one of those other robots. A clean one, because, yeah, the other one that she did have originally, of her very own, did get destroyed, unfortunately. And Fink, showing up and, asking why she's doing this and such, but, yeah, again, she was about to, especially when, yeah, things went downhill between her and Bright Bill, but then she's convinced not to send a transmission yet when both her and Fink look in the sky and see that a swarm of geese are flying and they will very soon be leaving, and Bright Bill will more likely, have to go with them. And this was mentioned by Pinktail that if, Bright Bill doesn't leave and fly with his other fellow geese, for the winter, then he'll end up, and as her babies put it at best, that's a good way to put it. So it's up to Roz and Fink to, try to get, and for Bright Bill to know how to fly. And, well, Bright Bill, he first says no. He wants no part of it. But thankfully and eventually, yeah, he is convinced. And thus, well, a montage and a pretty good song number that we get. None of the characters sing, but, a song that plays during the montage, one of those things, where, yeah, Bright Bill, over time, learning how to fly, and in preparation for when the time comes for him and the other geese to fly for the winter. And even when Roz and Fink, they're not making that much good progress, but thankfully, they get more help, this time, from Thunderbolt. And Thunderbolt being voiced by good old Vin Rams. And this was the second collaboration for Sanders and Rams after Lilo and Stitch, yeah. And hey, Vin Rams, good at voice acting, and of course, he was no disappointment at voicing Thunderbolt, yeah. So Thunderbolt, when approached by Fink and Roz to help out Bright Bill, and by doing so, yeah, Thunderbolt giving specific instructions to Bright Bill how to fly. certain way to fly with his wings and all that. The talk that Thunderbolt gives to Bright Bill, these specific instructions, yeah. And eventually, and also when all the other woodland creatures start to step in and cheer on and coach and support Bright Bill, especially Pinktail, and giving Bright Bill a couple of times the mother talk, fly up, it's so funny. And with Catherine O'Hara's voice performance, oh yeah. And eventually, Bright Bill, he's got the hang of it. He now knows how to fly. And when meeting up with the other geese, all of them being led by Longneck, yeah. Longneck pretty much being the only kind and, caring and sweet goose, I should say, to Bright Bill. And not to mention Longneck and Roz, they know each other some. And Longneck being voiced by good old Bill Nighy. Yep, and this is Bill Nighy's second DreamWorks animated film after Flushed Away. I mean, Flushed Away, that was both a DreamWorks and an Aardman movie. So, yeah, but still. Yeah, so not Longneck, the talk and such that Bright Bill gives, especially pointing out to Bright Bill that, the accident that happened, when Roz crashed on that tree and the tree crashed and cheering up Bright Bill that that Bright Bill might have not survived if it hadn't been for Roz. Yeah. And, Bright Bill, saying his goodbyes to Fink and Roz and to speed things up still. And thus, Bright Bill tagging along with Longneck and the other fellow geese, taking off and flying for the winter. Yep. And after that, one moment between Roz and Fink, and something that Roz forgot to say. And she, at one point, is running to, try to catch up right before they take off. Well, they fly away far from the island. She was going to say something, but didn't get a chance. And one feather, presuming it comes from Bright Bill, comes down on Roz, and, yeah, it's a hard-hitting moment right there. And after that, Roz thinks that as of now, she has finally completed her task. And when winter emerges, all of the woodland creatures on the island, they bundle up and, they prepared themselves for the winter and, going into hibernation. And, yeah, same for Fink, because, technically, Fink and Roz, they say their goodbyes, and Roz, at one point, she finally does send out a transmission, beacon and such, and waiting until they arrive. And Fink, him being bundled up, but feeling very sad at the same time, especially now that Bright Bill's gone and not being there right beside Roz. And coming back to Bright Bill, because, the journey that Bright Bill and his fellow geese have, and even at one point, we do see, the universal dynamics, and we do see humans in this film. The human designs in The Wild Robot, not bad, but, the movie mainly focuses on, the robots and, of course, the woodland animals. The humans, not that much in this movie, but overall, the design and look for the humans in Wild Robot, not bad. Even though we don't get that much of them, but anyways. There's even one moment where the geese, they fly by San Francisco. Apparently San Francisco, the part of it, the Golden Gate Bridge, I should say, yeah. When flying, let me take that back. They're flying over San Francisco, and we see the Golden Gate Bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge, part of it, just the part where, the cars drive, it's underwater. It's merged underwater. We even see whales. What happened in the movie? I don't know. I mean, granted, obviously this takes place in the future, presumably, but still, jeez Louise. Anyways, but, man, I tell you, the Golden Gate Bridge can't catch a break. Can it not? I mean, a good chunk of times where it went through, pardon my French, but it's true, it went through some shit, because, I can think of, say, in 2 Star Trek films where it almost got damaged and destroyed. Like in Star Trek 4, the Bird of Prey, it flies under it, it misses the Golden Gate Bridge, or when the tractor beam from Nero's ship, it almost hit the Golden Gate Bridge. But also, say in another DreamWorks animated film, Monsters vs. Aliens, it got damaged quite a good chunk from the robot that came from Galaxar, but also, most notably in X-Men The Last Stand, Magneto lifted it and just, yeah. But those are some examples for you, because, yeah, the Golden Gate Bridge cannot catch a break at times. Alright, but anyways, then there's a moment where the geese, they landed this location that's like a cornfield, I guess you could say. Well, you would see kind of on a farm, you know what I'm saying? Like, I should know the name of it. I do, but I can't remember. I'm sorry. But you would know too, of course. Any of you that have seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about next. But yeah, so overall, point being, they land and, well, to rest their wings. They don't really suspect anything. That is until Bright Bill notices these robotic feet that approach, and he recognizes them. And when looking up, yeah, he thinks it's Roz, but no way it is it Roz. And Roz, well, the robot that's the same robot as Roz, looking at Bright Bill, and, well, it's not really good because, scanners detect, a pest in the fields and, to dispose of it. And that's what happens. The robot's trying to shoo away the geese, but the geese start to panic, all except for Bright Bill. And Longneck notices this and encourages Bright Bill, because he's not terrified, to find a way to, lead the geese. And when even things get worse, other robots emerge, and, big tough ones, to really get rid of the geese. And yeah, it just gets out of hand. And so it's up to Bright Bill to fly his way and to lead the other geese to get out and to find a way to escape. And yeah, that's what happens. And even when Longneck, he buys Bright Bill some time, and by distracting some of them, even when one of the robots was going to fire on the geese and Bright Bill, and Longneck was blocking its way, and, well, a gunfire goes off, torpedoes, and we don't see who gets shot, but we're to presume that probably, no doubt about it, Bright Bill survived, but who took the shots? That's the thing. We can take a good guess, but I won't mention it just yet. Yeah. Even I, too, had a feeling that, yeah, probably more likely, but again, when I get to that. We then see Roz waking up from a bad dream, and we see Roz in the hut that was made and built by her. And, well, it just so happens that Fink is there, and Fink is happy to see that Roz is there. And, didn't we see Roz send out a transmission beacon? She did, but she did at one point turn it off because, she decided to still remain on the island. And, Fink being there and why he's there, he wasn't able to get any sleep, and being too uncomfortable. And Roz wonders, what about the other animals? Are they not doing any good? And Fink, he doesn't want to say it because, even when Roz, her lights turn red, Fink, and then we see, we get the sequence where Fink and Roz, they help the other woodland creature/animals on the island and getting them in the house, that Roz built. And even say the fish. The fish was helped out too, which, again, the fish's name being, that was, Rockmouth. Yeah, the name almost slipped out of my head, but pulling it up. Rockmouth got frozen in the water, but breaking off the ice and Rockmouth swimming again. And again, all the animals that are rescued, even Pinktail and her babies knew that they were going to be in safe hands from Roz and Fink. Again, nice to see that they were the first batch of animals to be kind to Roz and so on. But at one point, and when all of the animals, they're brought in, except for one more. Who could that possibly be? Well, is it not obvious? The bear. The bear gets brought in. Well, before Roz comes back with the bear, all of the other woodland animals, they start to bicker and fight one another. And Fink, he's trying to calm things down and telling them not to break this and that. And yeah, it just gets out of hand at first. And when Roz finally shows up with the bear, everybody's, shocked by this. Like, oh, what's he doing here? Just so on. And Roz, she's getting low on battery, and she's got to rest. And she leaves it up to Fink to get them to calm down and to cooperate and listen. That's what Fink does. Quiet! They don't stop, but I think, the rabbit or whichever animal, shh, that gets them to calm down. The jerk wants to speak, because that's how the woodland animals, cite Fink being a jerk. Yeah, he was at first, but then he evolved and such, thanks to Roz and Brightbill. So Fink makes it very clear to them that, and setting them straight, that, all they had done, all throughout that time that Roz was present on the island, they've been doing nothing but just being selfish and horrible and mean to Roz and calling her the monster. But all that Roz has done is be kind, caring, not getting in any of their ways, and sometimes helping them out, but most notably when helping out Brightbill, and even when Fink tells them that, they too had treated Brightbill as a runt and so on. And that's when the woodland animals, they start to feel really bad. And then at one point, the bear, named Thorn, being voiced by Luke Skywalker / the Joker himself, Mark Hamill, finally speaks, and agreeing with Fink and Roz, and assuring the other woodland animals that he will not attack or eat any of them. Yeah. And then all of the woodland animals, they start to cuddle with one another, sleep for the night, and even some of them, and especially Fink, snuggling up towards Roz. Yeah. And to name some of the other woodland animals, there's Snowdown, being voiced by Alexandra Novell, if I'm getting her last name right or wrong. Again, you know me sometimes. Peck, being voiced by Raphael Alejandro, I might be mispronouncing it again. Feather, being voiced by Paul Michael Williams. Honkington, I think I said that right, being voiced by Eddie Park. And D. Bradley Baker, he did some of the woodland creature / animal voices. And how fitting is that, since he's good at making those noises? He voiced raccoons, squirrels, and badgers. And also, there were 2 weasels voiced by Kenston John and Max Mittelman, if I'm saying that right. There's Broadfoot and Weasel 3 being voiced by Pio, again, I'm going to butcher his first name, Piotr Michael, and I already named the baby possums, because, they also, some of them also voiced, baby bunnies, baby skunks, and a chipmunk, and a baby lynx, and a baby otter. And by the way, because the skunk, can't forget to mention the skunk, good thing, because the skunk, because he speaks a couple of times, the skunk being voiced by Colin Urker, if I'm getting that right, because a couple of times where the skunk would spray on some of the characters, even when Roz imitates a skunk and letting out a putrid smell from her system, green gas or whatever. That was funny. Also, some of the robots, because 2 of them, I presume, because Rekos, I'm even saying, I have to look, Rekos, he's voiced by Randy Thorne. Yeah, I think I know Randy Thorne. I'm pretty sure, I've heard of him before, but, And, one of the robots. And, also, there's, right below Randy, because as always, I have IMDb up, Automated Alarms, being voiced by Avriel Corti. So some of the robots, and whom voices them, including one who I will get to when I get to this one robot, who is kind of an antagonist, but there was hardly an antagonist in this movie. We would see an antagonist at the, like, towards the third act of the film, the climax, but again, until I get there. So again, everything's settled down with the woodland creatures, all of them snuggling with one another, and even snuggling up to Roz. And then time passes, and after winter has come, now spring has approached, and man, nature has gotten to Roz, yeah. Like moths, mildew, not really, but just, grass like on her, best way to put it. And, well, it's that time where, yeah, at any point, the swarm of geese will return, and that's what happens. And to speed things up still, because yeah, the geese return. Fink, most notably, is there to greet Brightbill, but for Roz, she was going to, but she feels at first that Brightbill's found his place, and she, thinks that her task/duty is done. But not really, no. Until I get there, because yeah. Again, Fink being there to greet Brightbill, and, well, there's no sign of Longneck, and when Fink asks Brightbill, where's Longneck, there's a sad look on Brightbill and the other geese that, yeah, Longneck didn't make it. He took that blaster shot, like what we saw, and yeah, Fink is very sorry. And mentioning to Brightbill that Roz is still present on the island, but there's no sign of Roz. She was just right there when Fink was there, and when he ran his way to greet Brightbill, but yeah. But where is Roz? Well, as I said, when she feels that Brightbill has found his place, she was, she felt that her task and duty was done, and, still planning to go back to her kind. And at that sighting, because I forgot to mention this, when Brightbill began his training to learn how to fly, Roz built a landing track. Yeah, which was very nice of her. She makes her way there, and sure enough, we see a ship from Universal Dynamics arrive, and the one that greets Roz is a floating robot with tentacles named Vontra. And Vontra being voiced by Stephanie Hsu, if I'm getting her last name right or wrong, yeah. But yeah, Stephanie, most known for being in, say, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. She plays the daughter. She was also, she was Karen, right? Yeah, Karen in SpongeBob SquarePants the Musical. She was in Shang-Chi and a bunch of other pretty good films. And yeah, she's a great, talented actress, good person, just, yeah. And her being the voice of Vontra, well, yeah, she too was pretty good. Just everybody whom did the voices of these characters, from robots and the woodland animals, no disappointment whatsoever. Yeah, it had a great voice cast. But yeah, when Vontra greets Roz, and well, according to Vontra, they did receive the beacon transmission and such, the call from Roz, and when, Roz is being checked out by Vontra scanning her. And also, there was one moment where, yeah, like I said, Roz, one of her robotic legs, and from my point of view and your point of view, right robotic foot, it got damaged, it got broke. There was one moment where Paddler, and very kind of him, that he specifically designed and made a special tree trunk to place, and, well, to place on Roz to replace her broken robotic leg and such. That was nice of him, yeah. And even when Roz said to Paddler, I don't know what to say, and, what Paddler said, just, yeah. But that was nice for once from Paddler, so yeah. And especially when, yeah, because that happened, and that occurred when Brightbill, he was starting to learn how to fly, and yeah, the woodland creatures starting to slowly but surely, get close to Roz and Brightbill, and when they were coaching and supporting Brightbill learning how to fly. Yeah. Anyways, so, Vondra basically, and to put it this, telling Roz that, she will be brought back, and all her memories and what she was doing will be taken out of her, and, well, certain words that Roz says that just about, and start to trigger Vontra. Not the words that Vontra was expecting to hear, and the fact that Roz has become more than just, following Universal Dynamics and, sticking with the program that she originally was doing. And even, because when Roz says that, she's got unfinished business and so on, and, well, and it seemed like, yeah, there was nothing, and she was about to board, but thankfully, when hearing the voices of Fink, and I think Bright Bill, well, just Fink, saying to Roz, "What are you doing?" And Bright Bill's back, and Roz stops from boarding and tells Vondra that, she left something behind and she'll go back for it. But Vondra detects that, yeah, Roz is lying off her butt. And when we cut to Fink and Roz running, yeah, that's what Fink says, lying off your butt. And, well, when they start to run and make their way to Bright Bill, that's when Vondra and the robots on the ship, they start to attack and go after Roz, launching torpedoes and setting parts of the forest on fire almost, and eventually, Roz and Fink, when they meet up, at one point when they meet up with the bear Thorn, Thorn's helping them out, and when they meet up with the other woodland animals, as well as Roz and Bright Bill, they reunite. Well, no time for a reunion because what they find themselves into. These robots that come in armed and ready to, take in Roz and so on. Well, Thorn, sensing predators, and Roz is refusing to come home, and even telling the robots that I'm a wild robot. Roll credits. Yeah. And then all of the woodland animals, they help out Roz, and they take on those robots. Yeah, a battle between the robots and the animals, which was really cool. Yeah, the animation to this, and also the sound design and such, which, yeah, that was one of the 3 Oscar nominations it got. Man, that was really awesome. Just, yeah. Again, it's a shame that this animated film did not get a single win, but still, being nominated, it was still good to see that, yeah, of course, it made its way to the Oscars, but yeah. But again, the other awards it won, still, it was great to see. Well-deserved. Anyways, so yeah, again, the battle that takes place between the woodland animals and the robots, and eventually, yeah, they are destroyed, but not quite, because apparently, and when Vondra detects that, yeah, the robots were destroyed, well, she pushes a button that causes them to self-destruct. They blow up, and when they blow up, this causes almost the entirety of the forest, one big section of the forest that they're in, to be set into flames. Purple flames, yeah, basically. And, yeah. And when that happens, quickly, Vondra on the ship gets a hold of Roz, and Roz is a bit damaged, and yeah, she's brought on the ship, and, well, what are they gonna do now? Well, luckily, Bright Bill, along with Thunderbolt and all the other swarm of geese, they take it upon themselves to fly to the ship and to try to help and get Roz out of there, and most notably Bright Bill. And as for the woodland animals, well, for them, how are they going to take out the fire and such, the forest fire? Well, that's when it occurs to them they got to get some help from Paddler, and with his big tree that he was trying to munch down, yeah, and to break off. And remember when I said that apparently, according to Fink, Fink and the others felt that, Paddler was out of his mind and that his idea was crazy to do this, but now they like it. And Paddler, he wants an apology from them, and especially Fink, and also asking Fink to call him nice and smart and so on, just, and he's like, what? And the woodland animals are like, Fink, just say it. I'm sure he does, but yeah, not on camera, but obviously he did. Okay, but overall, with the help of all the woodland animals, this time, them trying to push and to break off the giant tree, they do so, and by causing a giant flood of water to, take out the forest fires, that were caused by the explosions from the robots that were set to, be self-destruct. Meanwhile, on the ship, well, thankfully Bright Bill made his way into the ship and trying to find Roz, but unfortunately, he at one point is too late, or so he is, because we see Vondra at one point taking all of Roz's memories and screwing up Roz, pretty much. But yeah, thankfully when Roz, after Roz, what happens to Roz and Vondra leaves the room, Bright Bill stumbles upon and finds Roz, but Roz is not being responsive and being active. And a very emotional moment where Bright Bill, he finally accepts that Roz is her mother and so on, and now understanding and knowing that what happened, the accident that she caused, it was unintentional, it was just an accident, and saying to Roz, emotionally, I love you, and thankfully Roz does reactivate and saying I love you too. A part of her did listen to Bright Bill, and as she establishes later on, yeah. And so when that happens, they try to escape, but Vondra, detecting that, yeah, Roz is active, and when Roz and Bright Bill are confronted by Vondra, and well, Vondra not only taking in Roz, but also is going to take in Bright Bill. Jeez. But thankfully, one of Roz's hands basically turns on a magnetic device and causing Vondra to be crushed. And Vondra, her last words that she repeats to Roz is that others will come after her and find her and bring her in and just, yeah. But sayonara, Vondra. Yep, she meets her demise. And after that, well, the ship, it does get destroyed, and by this point, the forest fires have been taken out, and so on. Just, yeah. And, a happy ending for the characters, and even, like, Roz. Well, yeah, because after what Vondra said, Roz knows exactly what she needs to do. She has no choice. She has to head back to where she came from, because, yeah, they'll still come after her. But, not to say that this is goodbye forever. She makes it very clear that she'll find a way to come back. And even saying to them that this is her migration and such. And, there's a group hug, and even Fink, he's worried and upset, because thinking that he'll be alone again without Roz. But thankfully, first Thorn, and then the other woodland animals, from Pinktail, even Paddler, convincing and assuring, I wouldn't say convincing, just assuring him that, he won't be alone. He's got them now. And, if he ever needs to talk to any of them, then he can do so. And, yeah. So, yeah. So, again, Roz disembarking, and, yeah, because when she does, by this point, everything, goes pretty well. And, it's the same ship, right? Yeah, because it didn't get destroyed. But just overall, she does disembark, taking off. And, yeah, even a moment where Thorn, he said to Fink that, by tomorrow I'll chase and eat you. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, by this point, he won't anymore. He's become a changed bear. And that goes for all the other woodland animals. And the epilogue, because, yeah, still, everything is great as it is on the island for the woodland animals, still living in that hut that Roz built. It was damaged at one point by the destruction of the robots and so on, but this time, yeah, all the woodland animals, they came together and they rebuilt it better than ever. So now they're, sleeping and staying in the house, and even when, like, say, they watch, like, movies or something from those projections, from those robots, and even, yeah, because Pinktail being a mother, turning it off and telling the kids that you've watched too much, and, well, it's story time. And Fink reading them a story about, a robot who came and so on, just, yeah. And then we see Bright Bill and his fellow geese flying because, winter time. And when they show up at that same place where they almost got killed. But thankfully, Bright Bill, he reunites with Roz. Because Roz did establish that when she reactivated, a part of her did listen to Brighttail, and a part of her, Vondra and nobody else from Universal Dynamics ever discovered and noticed, and they didn't do anything about it. And as long as they don't, then everything's good, and nice to see. And even Roz said that they'll never find it. A part of her that, is still her, whom she became. So, yeah. And again, it's great to see that, Roz still recognizing Bright Bill and them reuniting once again. And boom, that's how the movie ends. Yeah. And I like how the credits are done, footage that we've seen in the movie, and when the cast is shown, from Lupita, Pedro, Bill Nighy, just, yeah. And the song that plays during the credits, yeah, again, the songs that come from The Wild Robot, they weren't that bad. They're okay, just, they're not songs I'd listen to all the time, but I'm just saying, But, yeah, The Wild Robot. Again, what a fantastic DreamWorks animated film this is. And again, if I'm not wrong, a top animated gem from DreamWorks Animation, right? Just, yeah, everything about it from beginning to end. A good story, great story, I should say. A great cast of characters, great voice talents that were in this. Not a single one of them disappointed. Beautiful animation to this. The music and score, the songs, the climax, the hilarious and heart-wrenching moments, everything about The Wild Robot was definitely a DreamWorks animated masterpiece, without a doubt. And I'm giving The Wild Robot, well, what the heck, 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for The Wild Robot. And what about you guys? What did you think of The Wild Robot itself? Any of you that first heard about this and were excited to see another DreamWorks animated film directed by Chris Sanders, and if any of you, by any chance, were familiar with the novel by the same name, and any of you that read the book, and when knowing that there was going to be an animated movie adaptation of this, yeah, what was your first impression of it? And when you saw the trailers, any of you that got to see this on the big screen, were you amazed by it? Did you get good laughs? Did you get teary-eyed? And who were some of your favorite characters? And whom voiced the characters? What were some of your favorite moments? Moments where you're just like, oh my gosh, yeah, and how did you feel that, when it won, a good amount of awards and not a single win at the Oscars, but just overall, what do you think of The Wild Robot itself, and with what I've had to say, my review on it, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of The Wild Robot. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward. And I'll see you guys in the next video / review. And stay tuned, because what I will be reviewing next, well, it's another DreamWorks animated film, and let's just say, and to best describe it, these animals from the New York Zoo, they find themselves in Madagascar. Of course you know what it is. Again, stay tuned for that. Take care, and peace out.